Awesome. Wonderful. Oh, hello, Mulcha. Hold on 1 second. I don't know if you guys use Reddit or not, but I made a post on Reddit where I listed basically everything I wanted to talk about today. Also, if the music is too loud or too quiet, or my voice is too loud or too quiet, just feel free to let me know via Diablo 3 or via the chat channel, so I can see both of them. Alrighty. You can select the link in the chat channel that's like next to my face. In the chat channel that's like next to my face. Or maybe it's, I don't know, it's on one of these sides. Alright, well it is 3:31 p.m. So I'm gonna go ahead and get started now. Hello, my name's Mac10. If you do not already know, I run a YouTube channel called Mac10 Gaming. I basically just talk about Diablo 3 and StarCraft 2, which, speaking of which, MLG is going on right now, so after the show you should probably go check that out if you're a StarCraft 2 fan. So, basically, Evil Money, the show that I'm about to show you right now, is a brief show about trends in Diablo right now and how they relate to the Real Money Auction House. Well, for the time being, we can pretend it's the Real Money Auction House. It's in relation to gold, which will be translating into real money, and I believe that gold will probably be the best-selling item in the Real Money Auction House, and people will probably then use that gold on the normal auction house in order to buy their various wares, because it just sells too slowly. Everything but gold will sell too slowly. You would think that the best weapons and the best armor would all be sold on the Real Money Auction House, but things just sell too slowly. Pieces of gear that are worth loads of money. You know, I sold a 14 million gold one-handed spear this week, and I was scared that it was an investment. I paid 9 million for it, and I was scared that it wasn't going to sell. And eventually it did. It just did. I mean, it was cheaper than anything else on the auction house with its DPS. I mean, by a large margin. It had something like 1150 DPS for a one-handed weapon, so it had a lot of damage. It was an extremely good and extremely powerful weapon. So, oh, I just sold something. So, gold will probably be more lucrative on the Real Money Auction House than actual items, because everyone can use gold, everyone will want gold, and it takes too long to sell individual pieces of equipment. So that's my little spiel on gold and why I think making gold should be the top priority. But first thing I really wanted to talk about is patch 1.0.3. Now this patch, if you have a lot of money, the patch is going to hurt you. If you have a lot of good gear already, the patch is going to hurt you. If you're just starting the game, if you haven't broken into Inferno yet, if you're still climbing the ladder, so to speak, then this patch is great for you. But if you're already there like me, it's pretty rough, because it makes Inferno easier and it makes the drop rates higher. So this is going to increase the amount of shit that's out there. It's going to increase the amount of valuable goods that are already in circulation. So it's going to be detrimental as a whole if you already have a lot of money or if you have a lot of gear. If you spent a lot of money on your gear, you're going to have a bad time. So that's sort of where I stand on the Inferno changes. The increased attack speed is very interesting. This is a very interesting concept as a whole, because the increased attack speed is not actually, it's neither a nerf nor is it a true buff. The increased attack speed, what happened is, on weapons it works, but from my understanding, if you have increased attack speed on anything other than weapons, it doesn't work, it just doesn't function correctly, or at least sometimes it doesn't. It just does. It's just an empty stat. It says you get increased attack speed by that percentage, and it's just blatantly lying to you. So they're going to fix that bug. But we've already discovered that characters are about as they're plenty strong already. Blizzard doesn't want to throw in a buff to all of these characters, make them drastically stronger. So Blizzard has to proportionally nerf the stat as a whole and make increased attack speed less powerful, in order for them to be able to fix the bug without breaking the game. Well, not breaking it, but making it a little imbalanced, making characters a little bit stronger than they'd like them to be. So it's not a big issue. I think this change overall is great. I think this is a wonderful change because, quite frankly, the game's bugged. Quite frankly, if I buy a piece of gear that says increased attack speed, I would like it to make me attack faster, not just be written there for someone to see. So it's a good change, unless you have a really good weapon that has increased attack speed, because the DPS of a weapon reflects increased attack speed as a stat on that weapon itself. So if I have a weapon that increases my attack speed by plus 20%, it's got, let's say, 1500 damage, that could go all the way down to 1200 DPS. So it won't, but if that stat were completely gone, it would go down to 1200. I think I did that math right. 1/5. Yeah, so you would lose 300 DPS. So that's huge. Now, we don't know how much they're going to nerf it, but we know they are going to nerf it. So it's a big thing to think about if you have a weapon with a lot of DPS, and it gets most of that DPS from having a very, very, very large amount of increased attack speed. liquidate that asset, which is fancy words for get it on the auction house, get rid of it, turn it into money, because people look at that big number. People get on the auction house, they see that shiny 1,500, that shiny 1,200. They see that and they go, take my money. But if that number goes down, then the overall value of that item plummets. And if you're relying on a lot of increased attack speed to make that item worthwhile, it probably doesn't have other stats to sort of carry along with it. So with gear, I don't think it's going to be a big difference. I don't think it's going to be a big change. But with weapons, because it will cause all of those weapons' pre-calculated DPS to plummet, you're going to want to liquidate it. You got to get rid of it. You have to sell it off now, because it's only going to depreciate in value. It's only going to become less and less valuable. And over time, everything will become less valuable relative to other pieces of gear. Things might continue to cost more, but gold will be worth less because people will have more of it. So I'm saying relative to inflation, relative to the amount of money that is in the game, pieces of top-tier gear will gradually become cheaper relative to everything else you can spend gold on. So to put this in perspective, everything will slowly lose value, but we will see the value of these increased attack speed weapons just plummet. You will look at your weapon and go, what happened to my weapon? Did I switch weapons and not realize it? Because you'll see a drastic change in your DPS if that DPS number relies heavily on increased attack speed. So that's sort of where I stand on increased attack speed and what I think of it as a change, as a stat, etc., etc. But so we've got the Inferno changes down, we've nailed down crafting price, we've nailed down the increased attack speed. Next, I'm gonna touch base on crafting prices. Now, I have mixed feelings about that. Let's start with jewel crafting, or jeweling, I guess it's called, whatever Blizzard's chosen to call it. This is an incredibly good thing. They're basically making it, I don't have the details up on my screen at the moment, but I know at least up to squares, they're going to be drastically nerfing. I mean, you're paying like 1% of the crafting fee that you were before to make certain gems. Like, it's an insane plummet. And this is a good thing, because gems, they're way too expensive. They're way more expensive than they ever should be. They're precursors that you have to make in order to get to them are way more expensive than they need to be. I have the maximum level of both trade skills, and I've probably made 10 or 12 million gold from blacksmithing, and I've probably lost 1 million from jeweling. It's not profitable at all. You don't make money with jeweling, because even though it's in high demand and those products sell frequently, if you start with the bare minimum precursors and build up from the basics all the way to the top, you get the amount of money that you spent on those gems, on upgrading them into the next gem, into the next gem, into the next gem, into the next gem, into the next gem. The money you spent on the the tomes of secrets, pages of jeweling, tomes of jeweling, all the way up. You lose a huge chunk of money if you try to resell it. And that shouldn't be the case. Ideally, in a perfect world, we should be able, people with max level crafting should be able to make an item and on average make about 10% off it, which really is making 25% off of it, because Blizzard takes 15%. But you should be able to make a 10% profit. You should be able to make a small but a consistent and a steady profit off of crafting, and it should always be this way. This is how it's sort of set up for most MMOs. Now, granted, we are not in an MMO situation, but the economy of Diablo 3 is extraordinarily similar to the economy of an MMORPG, and I think this is the greatest thing that we can compare it to. So that's sort of that's what I think about crafting. I think that's where it ideally should be. And